Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into some pretty fascinating dementia research today,
Uh-huh.
specifically a recent study out of USC
Yeah.
that's really got people talking. You know how we usually connect dementia with Alzheimer's, right?
Right.
Well,
Mm.
this research is suggesting there might be another culprit kind of hiding in plain sight
Sure.
and affecting memory loss.
Interesting.
It's all about our brain's blood vessels. So, ready to take a deep dive into this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, great. I'm really curious to hear more about this study. So first off, where was it published?
It was published in Neurology.
Oh, wow, Neurology.
Big deal.
Just this month, actually.
Wow. So this is cutting edge stuff.
Yeah, very much so.
All right. So tell me, what exactly did this study look at?
Well, they investigated the link between mild cognitive impairment,
Okay.
or MCI,
Mm-hmm.
and how well blood vessels function in the brain,
I see.
particularly in the temporal lobes,
Interesting.
which is, the area of the brain that's responsible for memory. Right, the memory center.
Exactly.
And what did they find?
They found that individuals with MCI showed poor blood vessel dilation in their temporal lobes.
Poor blood vessel dilation.
And here's the really interesting part. This was regardless of whether they had amyloid buildup.
Hold on, remind me. What's
Right.
amyloid buildup again?
Amyloid buildup is a hallmark of Alzheimer's disease.
Right, those plaques.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So traditionally, we associate amyloid plaques with dementia and Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
But this study found that even without those plaques,
Mm-hmm.
people with MCI were still showing this blood vessel dysfunction.
Okay, so that suggests that it's not just the amyloid plaques that are contributing to memory problems.
Right. It really underscores the importance of vascular health in maintaining good cognitive function.
Vascular health meaning the health of our blood vessels.
Exactly.
So it sounds like this study is kind of turning our traditional view of dementia on its head a little bit.
I'd say so. For a long time, research has been so focused on those amyloid plaques that we may have overlooked the role of vascular health
I see.
as a separate and potentially very important factor.
This is really fascinating. I'm curious. How did the researchers actually measure blood vessel function in the brain?
What?
That seems pretty tricky.
It is. They had the participants do breath-holding exercises.
What?
Yeah, breath-holding
During an MR.
while they were inside an MRI machine.
Okay, how does that work?
So, holding your breath
Okay.
briefly stresses the blood vessels in the brain,
Interesting.
and this forces them to dilate to regulate oxygen levels.
Ah.
And by looking at this dilation during the MRI, the researchers get a really good picture of how well those blood vessels were functioning.
That's so clever. They're basically putting a little bit of stress on the system to see how it responds.
Exactly. And this process, by the way, it's called cerebrovascular reactivity.
Cerebrovascular reactivity. So if someone's blood vessels aren't dilating properly during this test, could that be a sign that something's up with their vascular health?
Yeah, potentially.
And possibly their cognitive function down the line.
Exactly. And that's what makes this study so important.
Okay, so we're starting to see how impaired blood vessel function could actually be a contributing factor to dementia, even without those telltale amyloid plaques.
It's a big shift in perspective. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But first, let's take a quick break.
We'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back. We were just talking about this groundbreaking dementia research and how impaired blood vessel function could be a contributing factor
Yeah.
to cognitive decline,
It's pretty huge.
even if those amyloid plaques aren't present. But I have to ask, isn't Alzheimer's still a major concern here?
Oh, absolutely. Alzheimer's is a very serious disease.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to remember that dementia isn't always caused by just one thing.
Okay.
It's often a combination of factors, what we call a mixed pathology.
Mixed pathology.
And amyloid plaques can definitely play a role in that mix. But this research is really suggesting that vascular health should be a much bigger part of the conversation. It might be a critical piece of the puzzle that we've been overlooking.
So it's not an either situation.
Exactly.
It's more like
Yeah.
we need to be looking at the whole picture, right?
Absolutely. And this research opens up some really exciting possibilities, both for diagnosis and for treatment.
Okay, so let's talk about that. If blood vessel dysfunction is a key factor, does that mean there are things we can do to protect our brain health?
Well, that's the really promising part. This research suggests that focusing on vascular health could potentially help slow down or even prevent cognitive decline.
Wow.
And that's even in people who don't have those Alzheimer's-related changes.
So we're talking about a potential game changer here,
It really could be.
both in how we diagnose dementia and how we approach treatment.
Exactly.
This is a lot to take in,
It is.
but it's also incredibly hopeful.
Absolutely.
It sounds like we're moving towards a more holistic understanding of brain health.
I think so, yeah.
And what's really exciting is that this research gives us concrete steps we can take
Yeah.
to protect our brains as we age.
Exactly.
But before we dive into that, I want to bring up something. Dr. Daniel Nation, the senior author of the study, said he suggested that this technique they use to assess blood vessel function,
Right.
that whole breath holding during an MRI thing,
Yeah.
he thinks it should become a standard part of how we diagnose dementia.
Oh, that's interesting.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a very compelling suggestion. He's not saying we should completely abandon our focus on amyloid plaques,
Right.
but he is advocating for a broader perspective. We need to include assessments of vascular health as well.
So in addition to looking for those amyloid plaques,
Yes.
we also need to be paying attention to the health of our blood vessels.
Exactly, especially as we age.
And this research suggests that
It does.
that might be even more important than we previously realized.
I think so, yeah.
This is really opening up a whole new frontier in how we think about brain health.
I agree. And it's not just about dementia either.
Oh, what do you mean?
There's growing interest in the role of vascular health in lots of other neurological and psychological conditions.
Mm-hmm. Like what?
Well, some studies are even looking at the link between vascular health and mood disorders,
Mood disorders.
like depression and anxiety.
Really?
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
I never would have thought about a connection between blood flow in the brain
Mm-hmm.
and things like depression and anxiety.
Right.
What's the thinking there?
Well, our brains are incredibly complex, right?
Okay. Definitely.
And they rely on efficient communication between all those different regions.
Mm-hmm.
So if the pathways get blocked
Okay.
or damaged,
Mm-hmm.
the signals get disrupted.
And that can affect our mood, our focus,
It can, yeah.
our sleep.
Exactly. It can affect a whole range of things.
Wow. So it's like
Mm.
poor blood flow in one area can have ripple effects throughout the entire brain.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Emerging research is suggesting that lifestyle factors can actually improve blood flow in the brain.
So things like exercise, diet, stress management,
Exactly.
those can actually make a difference in how well our brains are functioning.
That seems to be the case, yeah.
So not only could we reduce our risk of dementia
Mhm.
by taking care of our vascular health,
Right.
we could also potentially boost our overall brain power.
It's possible.
That's amazing. So this deep dive has taken us from this one study on dementia to
Yeah.
a whole new understanding of how important vascular health is
It is.
for our overall well-being.
Absolutely. It's all connected.
What stands out to you as the most significant takeaway from all of this research?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's the shift in focus from just amyloid plaques to a broader understanding of dementia.
Mm-hmm.
That includes vascular health as a key player. That opens up so many possibilities for early intervention and prevention. If we can improve blood flow and potentially protect our brains
Right.
just by making simple lifestyle changes, that's huge.
It really is. It's not just about finding a cure for Alzheimer's.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we have more control over our brain health than we might think.
Exactly.
And that's empowering.
Absolutely. This research is really a reminder that we shouldn't wait until something goes wrong to start taking care of our brains.
That's a great point, you know?
It's about making those healthy choices now
Yeah.
to support cognitive vitality throughout our lives.
It's like investing in your brain's future, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like we talk a lot about building a healthy financial portfolio, but maybe we should be giving just as much attention to building a healthy brain portfolio.
I love that analogy. And just like with finances,
Yeah.
small, consistent investments over time
Right.
can make a big difference.
It all adds up. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of dementia research, I want to leave our listeners with a challenge.
Okay, I like it.
What's one small brain healthy choice you can make today?
Ooh, that's a good one. It could be something as simple as taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or calling a friend instead of scrolling through social media,
Ooh, I like that one.
or even just getting a few extra minutes of sleep,
That's always a good idea.
Every little bit counts.
It really does.
Make
It's not about being perfect, right?
No, no.
It's about making sustainable changes
Yeah,
that you can stick with for the long haul.
exactly.
Your brain will thank you for it.
It really will.
Well, on that note,
Mm-hmm.
we'll leave you to ponder those possibilities.
Yeah,
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of dementia research.
absolutely.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a fascinating topic
Uh-huh.
that's sure to spark your curiosity. Until then, keep those brains healthy
Yes.
and those minds engaged.
Stay curious, everyone.
Yeah.